Well, Kim, tell us. So when you and I first met, we sat down and I showed you my swatches, everything we were doing then, just kind of told you more about it. And then, you're like, well, we're not going to do this now. But then when we were sitting down, I was like, how did you do all this? And then we started talking. I was like, you told me your story of what kind of sent you down the entrepreneur rabbit hole, because you were a corporate man for a little while.
All my life until like in my 40s.
Really?
Late 40s.
So it was into your 40s that you finally went out on your own.
Yeah, and it was actually, not that I remember, but how about September 28th of 2008?
You got the date?
At about 11:40 in the morning.
You know the time, too.
It was as I say it was the worst day in my professional life, but little did I know, it was the best day of my professional life. I just didn't know it at the time.
Yeah. Cool. So dive into that story.
Okay. It's a
sit back and buckle up, right?
Yeah, it's a bit embarrassing, and it's 100% true. I will not embellish it. And the first part's a little uncomfortable for me because I have to kind of set the tone.
Sure.
And when I left, let's just talk what company it was. And I think most people have probably heard of the corporation. It was Bose, the speaker company. I had...
it's a slightly big company.
Company. And I had worked my way up, and I was overseeing a division of the Americas for Bose Corporation. I had engineering, project management, customer service, sales that reported up through me. And I was... this is the uncomfortable part because it's not very good. I was probably considered a golden child.
Okay.
Because we were just killing it.
Yeah.
What we were doing, and we were selling speakers, right, to national accounts. Think of it as Abercrombie and Fitch's and the Hollisters and Appleby, just any national account you can think of, we would direct.
Who was your largest account?
Abercrombie and Fitch.
Abercrombie.
Yeah, back in, if you can remember the old days when you walk into a store and you couldn't hear each other, you couldn't hear talk because
you couldn't smell anything other than their cologne too. Yeah.
And we did most of the Hollister brand back in those days. Yeah. So I actually, which was this kind of important part of it, I actually kept Abercrombie and Fitch as my personal account. I was the sales guy for that as well, but the salespeople had their own accounts, and et cetera. So I had actually even won the President's Award of 10,000 employees, and the only person that had ever won that in our division.
Wow.
The reason I say that, it's only because we were killing it, and I as I look back and you kind of do the Monday morning quarterback of why certain things happen.
Right.
It was my idea, and this is back to shows you the timing when. Flat screen TVs, plasma screens were the big deal.
Were the new thing.
They were the big deal.
Yeah.
And I said, if we could start selling TVs to a restaurant chain, just pick anything you want, any restaurant chain you want, that was the big deal. They'll take our speakers if we can provide the TVs. Well, a VP at Bose goes, we don't sell TVs. And I thought, well, what if I give it a try?
Yeah.
So I gave it a try, and the customer at the time loved it, and they said, yeah, we'll take your speakers too, but we love these TVs because they're hot.
Yeah.
So we finally got, I don't want to say I proved him wrong, but I did kind of prove this guy wrong. And we still sold a lot of speakers. That's what our core business was, right? But I think, I know, in retrospect, I don't think he liked the fact that I kind of probably proved him wrong. So we are killing it. And here's where the fun part starts, okay? So we were having all kinds of fun, breaking records, sales records, et cetera. And every year, I'm kind of an idea guy. What I lack in intelligence, I kind of have like ideas for experiential things. Another book is called The Experience Economy. I would highly recommend everyone to read that. That's about the ability to craft unique and compelling experiences that are completely designed and crafted to transcend, exceed people's expectations.
Yeah.
So that was all about. So every year we would rent a 85-foot houseboat and go to Lake Havasu.
Big party lake.
That's correct. Like bad boys. What you can, that.
Yeah.
So, but what we would do, we would have all my managers come in, and we would invite the decision makers, director level, VP level of all of our accounts, our top accounts. They'd fly in, we'd go pick them up in a speedboat. We'd take this big houseboat, had a hot tub and a slide, and
All the
pretty well
things.
decked out.
Yeah.
And they would stay with us for 2 days, and we would plan. What did we do right this past year? What are you going to be doing? How many stores are you going to be building? What should we plan on doing? What can we do better? All those kinds of things. So
Right.
there was a meeting of the minds. People would come in and out during the entire week.
Mm-hmm.
Spectacular. Always a success. Always looking forward to it. So this is the third year that we did this. Now starts the interesting part. And I always had a rule, because we would park in a cove, and then during the week there wouldn't be many people. But as the week progressed, especially on Thursday, definitely Friday, Saturday we would come in, bring the houseboat in, and then we'd all take off on Sundays back to our places, right? Back to our respective offices around the country.
Mm-hmm.
So I had rules. No, we had, obviously we're Bose, we have speakers, and we could
Right.
blast some music, but never any profanity.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't fly a Bose flag on the houseboat. Toward the end of the week, if there were ever families that came over that said, which was always the case,
Yeah.
can our kids come down your slide? We wouldn't do it during business hours, but
Right.
there would be a point where you're like, okay. But we always had to be there, and we had to allow the parents on the boat watching things, just trying to be adults. Right?
Keep
And
it kosher.
Kosher. So this is the third year that this occurred. Well, prior to leaving to go to Lake Havasu, there was a woman that wanted to go. She was an engineer, and we actually tried to accommodate, thinking, okay, this is an all-male, all the guys, how do you
Right.
put a female? So we looked at renting another houseboat to have her and another marketing lady who was there
Cool.
next to us to try and accommodate. Understood it, understood the desire. She really didn't need to be there. She wasn't a manager level.
Yeah.
Did everything we could, and my boss said, "It's just we can't do it. We just can't do it." So she was denied. Now my boss would always go too. He was always there for 3 or 4 days,
Okay.
and he was awesome too. So she couldn't go, and I know that, as I know now, that didn't go over all that well. That she wasn't allowed to go.
Oh gosh.
So we had a great week, like it always was, and it was the Saturday, the end, and it was we were done. All of our customers had left, and it was kind of our day after our meeting in the morning, talking about the planning. Here's
Right.
what we're going to do. At noon, we had 5 more hours. We just said, we're done for the week. Let's have fun. And that's when we allowed people on the boat, and it was mostly families and kids,
Yeah.
obviously. We had one of my employees that was in charge of taking videos and pictures, and we would take those and send them to our customers and say, hey, meeting out over
Yeah.
whatever, and just showed them, and it was a good little thing to follow up with them. So at the end of that trip, now we're all done. It was a great time. Families were on there, kids were going off the boat, and it was spectacular.
Yeah.
I left to go get some ice in the boat we had, speedboat, come back to the boat. Everything was spectacular. We leave the next day, perfect, no problems. 6 weeks later, we get we have one of the guys I'm with me that took all the videos, sent me the videos and pictures on a disc. This is how old it was, long ago.
Back when there were CDs.
Yeah, and I'm looking through it, and there were 3 photos that stuck out, of 2 videos and a photo that stuck out.
Okay.
And I said, eliminate those. They don't need to see it. And what it was one was a video of about now this is 100 and some degrees in Lake Havasu in the summertime.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Swimming suits everywhere, right?
Yeah, of course.
Was one of our managers jumping off the top of the houseboat with like a 14-year-old girl because she was afraid to jump off. So the video was, we can do this. Little did the video show that the mom and dad were standing right behind,
Right.
saying, you can do it. So they just kind of held hands and jumped off together. Extremely innocent. But by itself, no one would really know what it
You
was.
don't know the context,
She's
sure.
14-year-old, she's in a bikini, right? And my manager guy is probably 35.
Sure.
Just take that out. Doesn't need to be there. There was another one where there was a chugging contest, a beer, with one of our guys and a grown woman. And she was in her bikini, but her husband was there. And they were restaurant owners. So we were talking to them about putting Bose in all their stores.
Yeah.
And so that was a chugging contest. I think she actually won. She beat the guy. And that was a video. I go, that can stay off. That doesn't need to be in it.
Right.
And the other still photo was that same woman. We handed her husband the business card.
Okay.
and the business card, call us when you get back.
Yeah.
Well, he didn't want to put it in his swimming trunks. He handed it to his wife, who put it in her
Fair enough.
top.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And someone took a picture of the Bose business card in a top. There was
Probably doesn't
nothing
need to be in
risque.
there. Yeah.
That didn't need to be in there.
Yeah. Exactly.
Something. Okay. Wow. So 6 weeks later, one of the engineers and that young lady at Bose that didn't get to go on the trip, they had to go into a laptop of the guy that was on the trip that took the pictures and everything.
Okay.
That I had him erase all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he didn't erase it from his personal laptop. She went into the laptop to get some plans that he had back in Massachusetts. Mm-hmm. She pulls the laptop up and sees a file that says personal file, Lake Havasu. She had no right to go into this, but she did. So there was all these videos and stuff of, let's just say it looked like a party.
Yeah.
There were a lot of pictures that weren't, but there was a lot of pictures that were on that last day when there was 75 boats, houseboats in the cove.
Yeah.
People are playing, having fun. Well, I get a call from my boss that says, hey, this girl has complained that she went into this file and saw what looked like a gigantic party, and she didn't get to go, and now she's saying that's why she didn't get to go, because she was...
Gosh.
And so my boss, who had been there for 3 days, he wasn't there on that Saturday. He had already left. Third year in a row we did this. So I get a call from HR about these pictures. I wasn't in any of the pictures, actually. And so I'm on the phone basically kind of fighting and trying to explain what transpired, fighting for what I thought was going to be a real problem for 3 individuals that were in those pictures. Mm-hmm. And so a couple of HR conversations with them. And so it got a little quiet, and then I had to fly to Framingham to the Bose corporate facility to interview a project manager. Mm-hmm. So I'm in my late 40s at this point, or early 50s, whatever, I have to do the math. And so I get to the corporate, I land, I go to the, get ready to go to one of the buildings, and my boss's assistant said, hey, they need you to go to the corporate facility up there instead of down here at our building. Oh, okay. So I walk in, they direct me to the room I'm supposed to be in, and I walk in, and there is sitting in a very small, probably a room just a little bigger than this, mm-hmm. a lady that I didn't know, and then that VP that clearly didn't like me.
Right.
And not that I can recall, but he said, effective immediately, you are no longer an employee of Bose Corporation. He said, I can tell you by your present and past performances, this went to the highest levels of the Bose silo. I don't know what silo meant, but that's what he called it, at the Bose
mm-hmm.
silo. And it was determined that you oversaw what appeared to be a animal house environment, and because of that, you're no longer an employee at Bose Corporation. And I had a wife who didn't work, 4 kids, and I said, it's been an honor and a privilege working for Bose Corporation. I didn't know what else to say. Mm-hmm. And then he said, effective midnight, you no longer have insurance, and there is no severance. I've been there 10 years.
Wow.
I said, seriously?
Yeah.
And he said, we need your phone and your laptop. And I'm in Boston, or Framingham, Massachusetts. Mm-hmm. I said, really, how am I supposed to book a flight and get home?
Yeah. They
allowed me to keep my phone. So that was September 28th, 2008. If anyone remembers 2008, it was the beginning of the recession.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Not the best time in the world to have no insurance at midnight and 0 monies coming into from. So for anyone that's been fired, I was fired. I wasn't like it was. You get a chance to resign.
Right.
I was fired. You go through so many emotions. For anyone that's ever been fired, I went through embarrassed, mm-hmm. totally embarrassed, scared for my livelihood, mm-hmm. for my family. And then, as it transpires, you go through different phases. Then you get inquisitive. Why did this happen to me? Then I'll be honest. But I got angry.
Yeah.
You got angry. Then you think about, okay, what can I do revenge? But I kept it like somehow they're going to figure out that I was okay. Because actually a lot of the employees, as I find out, were going to bat and saying, why did it, he didn't do anything wrong, et cetera. But it didn't matter at that point. So, but that was the worst day of my life in the business. But little did I know it was the best. Because I loved the people I worked for. It was a great company. I was killing it, doing really well money-wise. I never would have left.
Yeah.
Wouldn't have left. So I went back and I actually, I called the vice president of Abercrombie & Fitch. I said, I just want you to know that I'm no longer employed at Bose. I got let go. And it was like, okay. So what are you going to do? And I said, I have no idea. No idea. So he said, have you thought about doing this on your own? I said, back then, of speakers and everything we did at a Hollister store was a lot of money. Anybody who knows very loud music, high-end stuff, they did it correct. They went overboard in music. I didn't have that kind of money because we always did the work and then we finished the install. 30 days later, they paid us. And they were building a lot of stores. And I said, no, I don't think I could. And he says, well, what if we helped? He says, because my relationship is with you, not with Bose. Now keep in mind, every store had to be identical. Yeah. Every store had the same exact speakers, same amplifiers, control systems. They wanted it all identical. And it makes sense because if you got 600 stores across the United States, you want them to be identical in the way they operate. And he said, what if we paid you up front so you could buy all the equipment up front? Okay. So I attribute that to relationships, how important they are. That vice president of Abercrombie, I didn't have any. And I was going up against Bose Corporation, who'd been doing hundreds and hundreds of stores. And so that's when I said, well, maybe this will work. Yeah. And so I hired a guy that reported to a guy that reported to me from Bose, who was doing the project management. He came on board and thought everything was great. And it started, and then I got a letter from Bose Corporation, from the attorneys, cease and desist. You can't do this, and they gave me 9 reasons. So I'm looking through the 9 reasons. I was like, okay. I could get through 8 of them, but one of them, this is where it gets a lot of fun. One of them was a proprietary piece of equipment, I won't go into details, in the amplifier that had to EQ the system. Okay. Abercrombie & Fitch, which is same as Hollister, was the largest purchaser of that equipment in the world. And all their stores had this piece of equipment. They wanted everything identical. Yeah. So I called the vice president and I said, I can get by with all the other 8 things. Yeah. Don't use the manual we created, some other stuff. But I can't get past this. This is in every one of your stores and it needs to be in every future store. Yeah. He said, are you telling me that piece of equipment can't be found anywhere else? I said, no, I think we can find another different brand that would do the same thing. He goes, well, let's do it. Let's use a different piece of equipment to do that. So midstream, after 300 or 400 stores, they stopped using that. Bose lost their biggest customer, and their customer was the biggest for our division, to my little business, KD Global Solutions, that I started. Yeah. And they not only, but they lost that piece of equipment too, because we started using something else. So I could get past what the attorneys said I couldn't use. I became one of the bigger Bose dealers. I tried not. It's the story about you just wanted to crush somebody. Yeah. I can't tell you how much revenge was in my mind, but I just said, someday, don't burn a bridge. Yeah. Do not burn a bridge. Do it right. Do the right thing. Figure it out. And so they allowed me, because they didn't want to lose their customer, to continue to buy Bose speakers at the time. So eventually, that business, and that's why this comes the part where it was the worst day, but I didn't know it was going to be the best day of my life. Yeah. They forced me into being an entrepreneur. And then that business, and still operational today.
Yeah.
We do work in all 50 states. We've done work in 32 countries around the world. Audio, video. So we're an audio video integration. So we do video, security systems, digital signage, music content. And it was because of that worst day. Scent.
Yeah.
Correct. Because the worst day of my business career forced me. So sometimes, thank God for unanswered prayers, because I prayed that they'd figure it out. They'd bring me back. Certainly they'd bring me back. And it was thank God for unanswered prayers, because little did I know, maybe maybe he had a different thought I could do something better.
Yeah.
And that's what started my entrepreneurial ways, I think.
Well, it's crazy because you as you said, you wouldn't have ever left.
Yeah,
it was a great company.
I got flat out fired, and it took as I'm walking to my car that day, escorted.
Yeah,
that's how you get escorted. He said, by a security guard. Got my laptop out of and just gave it to him.
Yeah,
and the most humbling experience, embarrassing, and then I sat in the car. That September day, it was a beautiful day in Framingham, Massachusetts. Afraid to call my wife to tell her I didn't have a job, and I didn't know what my neighbors would think. I didn't know what my children would think, and I do recall, and I think Kurt would tell you, my girl, I cried like a baby, telling my kids that I had lost my job. I wanted to be honest. My neighbors wouldn't. I worked out of my home, right? So the corporate office, I was gone a lot, traveling. Didn't have to tell them; they would never have known. But it was tough to be dishonest.
Yeah.
So it was a very humbling experience. I still to this day don't believe I deserved it, and nobody else. There was one other person that got fired that day. As a matter of fact, the guy that took the pictures, and it was his laptop that the person looked into. It was his business card that was in the in the thing too, in the bikini top that just was stuck out, half in, half out of the bikini top.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's a moral of the story. If there's a moral of the story is you never know why things happen, and I think don't burn bridges.
Yeah.
If you don't have to. So I've tried to never. So we're a Bose dealer to this day.
Yeah. And also, God always has better plans for us than we expect, right?
He did, and the road wasn't always paved with gold. I mean, there was challenges and.
Well, you're not going to get better if it is.
No.
If it's all smooth sailing, there's nothing to get better for. It's the trying times, the adversity you go through, losing the job, and a great job at that.
Yep.
To now becoming an entrepreneur and going from corporate man to owning your own business. I mean, how long had you and your wife been married at that point?
Let's say we were married in '84, and this was 2008.
Okay, so
and had 4 children. Probably the youngest was maybe 5.
Okay, and so
maybe 10 at that point.
Okay,
10, 12, 14, 16, something like that.
What was her reaction when you called her?
She was supportive, calming. It was okay.
Yeah.
I don't know that I told her at that point we didn't have a severance pay and there was no insurance. Of course, she didn't work, and I've been blessed that she hasn't had to work. She worked at Lilly for 5 years before she ended up quitting after 2 years with me after we had Kurt. So perfect on her part, but we cried together. When I got home later that day and stuff, it was scary. Yeah. And then thinking back for anyone that can remember 2008, 2009, they weren't really. It was the toughest. It was a recession, right? Yeah. And people weren't hiring, and I actually went a few years. There's a little more to the story. I did take on a senior VP job of another company as I built that business.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yep. So I was working, and I brought that other guy in to do the project management. So we kind of did it together, but I funded it for the next 3 years by being a senior VP for a couple different companies.
Yeah, well, that's sometimes what you have to do. You work on your side hustle in the meantime, and then hopefully one day it explodes and you don't have to work for the man anymore. Well, right?
And now I'm building my company at this point, my personal company. I'm also a senior VP for a very large company. Back then it was called DMX, Mood Media, today Muzak, whatever. But it was ironic in that where I was at, I still promoted Bose products, and that was a huge company where I went to. We were a dealer at that time. We were another company that sold, and so I basically did the thing for another company. It wasn't a manufacturer; it was a regular company. We were my second year there. We were the Bose Dealer of the Year. That company, and
That's funny.
3 of us were to go to Bose to be honored, and they were to.
That's funny.
Guess who was supposed to be in that meeting? I said supposed to be.
Yeah.
That guy that fired me.
Really?
He did not show up.
What a
And I
pussy.
went. It was my first time back at Bose, and many of the employees were still there. That
Yeah.
that
Well, because it's not the
reported
company itself. It sounds like it was 1 or 2 people that had
Yeah.
it out for you.
And I was looking forward to seeing people.
Yeah.
And but that guy was supposed to be in that meeting, and he wasn't in it.
What a
And I
pussy.
thought, that there's a lot of emotions going on. How am I gonna when I see this guy? Am I gonna thank him? Am I gonna give him a cold shoulder? I decided, I'm gonna shake his hand and say, thank you. We appreciate being
Thanks.
Bose Dealer of the Year.
Yeah.
He didn't show up at the meeting.
Oh
So
my
I thought that was
gosh.
funny. I don't know if he was scared to or he just, I don't know, who knows.
Yeah.
Speculation.